How do you build great relationships? Well, there are a lot of skills that you need to have the right kind of relationships, and you need to learn them. But I want to focus in on one particular skill. In fact, it's a secret today to building great relationships. Remember, great relationships are critical to your productivity at work. They're critical to your building great teams. Great relationships are absolutely essential for your own personal well-being and happiness, and frankly, your own personal and professional success. I love what Stephen Covey said some years ago when he talked about the fact that we all have an emotional bank account and that we need to invest in that emotional bank account. So every time you do something positive for someone, you build them up, you support them, you help them, you listen, you care for them, you're building into their emotional bank account. Every time you ask for a favor or demand something or require something or have a conflict of any kind, that tends to take away from the emotional bank account. What you want to do is be able to deposit a lot more than you withdraw. And one of the best ways you deposit the most into an emotional bank account is by the secret. And that is encouraging or complimenting. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you don't deposit enough by doing this, you'll end up with bankrupted relationships, and that will incredibly impact your life in a negative sense. So how do we maximize relationships? We, among other things, and especially, learn to compliment. Now let me tell you my story. When I was a little kid, I was a bit of a rascal. I got in a lot of trouble. I had a good home, but I got in a lot of trouble. I was a kid with a poor self-concept. In the main, that happened because I was a little fat boy. When I was 10 years old, I weighed 120 pounds, and I was short. I was 20 pounds too heavy to play pee-wee football. So I had to lose 20 pounds to play the game and to even qualify to get on the team. As I was going through school and started off in kindergarten, I was almost flunked out of kindergarten. Have you ever heard of anyone who flunked kindergarten? Well, they almost flunked me because they said I was socially maladjusted, which was really code for I got in fights all the time, which was true. Kids would pick on me, and so I'd beat them up. Well, I got through kindergarten and then made it through every class in grade school by passing on condition. I think the condition was that I wouldn't come back, but I passed on condition. Seriously, I was a solid D student through most of my grade school. My brother brought me my report card for Mr. Kono a few years ago to keep me well grounded, and sure enough, there were 8 different courses, and for each course I got a D minus in one, a C minus in one, so I had a D average. But for effort, I got consistently in every one of the classes an E for excellent. That was as good as you could get. So think of what that says to a little kid. It says Ronnie's really stupid, but he's maximizing his potential. And hey, that's how I saw my life. I thought, this is as good as it's going to get. Well, that caused me to get in all sorts of trouble with my family, with my teachers, ultimately a bit with the law. I was going the wrong direction. I certainly couldn't play sports because of my weight. I got in fights all the time. I was in real trouble. And then at the end of my 7th grade year, I had 2 things happen. One is I went to a conference where I heard these incredible insights. They were rather mind-blowing thoughts about life and my future, and that was very encouraging to me. I had what would be akin to a spiritual epiphany, very profound. But when I came back from that, about the same time, I ran into a gentleman in our city, a business guy who started to pour his life into me. In fact, he met with me really only 12 sessions, once a week for 12 weeks, and he was mentoring or coaching me. Now, he taught me all sorts of things. I don't remember anything that he taught me, but every time we met, he would find something to encourage or compliment. He had to look hard and dig deep to find things, and I only remember 2. One was when he said, Ronnie, you're very articulate. You can communicate. Now, what you have to say isn't all that good, but one day you can become a great communicator. And I said, really? I mean, no one had ever told me I could accomplish anything before. Again, loving parents, good family, but I just hadn't heard those kinds of words. And then another time I remember he said, Ronnie, kids follow you. Now, son, you're not going the right direction, but they follow you. You have leadership skills, and one day you could become a great leader. I said, seriously? He said, yeah. Well, he did that for 12 sessions. That was it. 12 weeks poured into my life. And the net effect of that was between my 7th and 8th grade year, my life started to dramatically change. I went from D's to A's and stayed there through my postdoctoral work. I lost a lot of weight and started to play and excel in sports. I went from getting in fights all the time to becoming the student body president at the end of my 8th grade year and ultimately into high school. So what happened? Was I smarter? No. Was I a better leader? Not really. Was I a greater athlete? Absolutely not. What was I? I was motivated. I was motivated because someone believed in me. And they simply demonstrated that by complimenting, finding something in me that I do well or did well or had potential in, and articulating that to me. That totally changed the course of my life. And that's why I want you to learn this art of complimenting today. I want you to understand the concepts. I want you to understand how to do it very practically. We're going to communicate that with you. And then I want you to turn it into practice so you become an artist at complimenting. You become a craftsman at building into the lives of people. When you compliment, you breathe power. You breathe courage into people. That will transform your personal life. It will transform your professional life. I think you're going to like this journey.